It has been long expected. President Muhammadu Buhari has warned Nigeria service chiefs to live up to their responsibilities and justify their continuous stay in the office. At the Security Council meeting, an apparently unimpressed Buhari said he will no longer accept the escalation of banditry and other forms of insecurity in the country. National Security Advisor Bagana Mungunu told State House correspondent after the meeting that the president was extremely unhappy with the current state of insecurity in the country and added that the best of the security chiefs has not been good enough. He said the president is also unhappy with the lack of synergy among the security agencies and ordered them to meet with governors of northwestern states to find a lasting solution to the wave of violence in that region. Nigeria has witnessed an increased wave of banditry and terror attacks in recent days, which has led to protests in the north. For the first time in a long while,
Mr. President has expressed great concern over the declining security situation in the country. He is extremely unhappy about what is happening, and he feels that even though the security agencies are doing their best is not good enough for him, and he wants an immediate reversal of the current trend, an immediate reversal of our misfortunes in all their dimensions. Mr. President also told us clearly, in no uncertain terms, that he and indeed the administration came to power on the platform of 3 issues: fighting insecurity, overcoming our economic difficulties, and dealing with the scourge of corruption. And he also noted that it takes common sense for anyone to understand that without security, the pursuit of the other 2 objectives will just be an exercise in futility. And therefore, he wants the security agencies to take into consideration the wider implication of the gradual descent of the security of this country. He is not going to accept any further escalation of the security situation. He's also stated that no one was forced on him. He selected everyone individually based on what he feels their records have revealed. And therefore, it is up to each individual organization to live up to their expectations.
All right, you heard it there. Straight. National Security Advisor, the president is saying your best is not good enough. One wonders, what's the KPI for the service chiefs? Because you expect in the corporate sector or in governance, you set targets for people, they don't meet the targets, they go.
It should really be that simple, right? I fail to see the point of reading any kind of a riot act when it is apparent that it's an issue of capacity. If people do not have the capacity for the work that they have been assigned to do, there's only one solution. There's also issues with equipment, intelligence. The National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongono, has himself, in that leaked memo we all recall, I'm sure, had cause to complain about the chain of command. There have been all kinds of issues that may not necessarily be laid at the feet of the security chiefs necessarily, but the fact remains that the buck stops with them. There have been calls for them to be replaced in February, and now it's apparent that those calls are going to continue. Where in June, the security situation in Nigeria is only escalating daily. It's become untenable at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that the riot act that the president has read to the service chiefs will be an indication that he's telling them that if I don't see any improvement shortly, all of you will have to step aside.
A lot of people will argue with you, Dr. Abati, that after 5 years, we should still read Riot Act out.
It's beyond the point of reading.
That's the expectation of Nigerians. You will see that the reaction has been, look, you don't need to give them any more time. Just let them go. That's the position of Afenifere, as has been expressed. That's the position of the Niger Data Forum, the Niger Data Forum, PANDEF. And many Nigerians have also been saying that, look, these service chiefs have not been effective, they've not been efficient, and they have to be relieved of their positions. Now, that question was posed directly to the National Security Advisor, and he said that it is up to the president, that is the decision of the president, whether he still wants the service chiefs or not. But I hope that the president himself will listen to Nigerians and relieve them of their duties, although the Defense Headquarters has come out to say that the military is not weak, they don't have problem of capacity, and they are up to the task. But we can't see that evidence.
Apparently not.
Their best is not good for the president, good enough for the president. It is not good enough for Nigerians. And this is something we should underline, because you recall that this kind of meeting, this is not the first time. You know, the president would express his dissatisfaction. On one occasion, we were told that the security architecture was going to be changed. That's more than 6 months ago. What has happened to the tinkering with that security architecture? There was also a national security strategy document that released. Was, advertised and celebrated. We have not seen any effect. So we have to go beyond documents, beyond promises, beyond rhetoric, and see real effort in terms of the security of lives and property of Nigerians, either in the northwest or the northeast or in any part of the country.
We want action, and that has to be said. And I'm sure that these views expressed are the views of millions of Nigerians out there.
It's long overdue.
All right, that's all on the news headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have the trio of Rotus Oduri, Michael Wilson, Aaron Akerjola to give us updates on Africa Global Business Report and COVID-19 updates. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Rotus Oduri with Africa Business Update. Good morning, Rotus.
Morning.
Rotus, are you with us? Okay.
I think
maybe there is an issue with his mic.
Yeah, we're trying to.
There appears to be.
Rotus Oduri? Well, we'll take a short break now while we try to sort that out, and then we'll return and have Africa Business Update with Rotus Oduri. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Now we go to Rotus Oduri with Africa Business Update. Rotus, can you hear us now?
Hello.
Good morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Morning.
All right. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Rufai.
Potato boy.
Yes, indeed, with fries and chips. Starting with aviation sector, we had an update from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, in particular from the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Musa Nuhu. He said that the domestic flights are not yet ready to take off on the 21st. In fact, we have his quote there. So we never said aviation is going to start definitely on the 21st of June. We're supposed to put our report back based on what we have. We have some work to do, and as such, 21st is not feasible. It's not a feasible date to resume operations on domestic flights. We will not approve the start of operations on any date until we are sure and confirm that we are ready to start safe, secure, and organized operations. To do otherwise will be disastrous for all of us. Now, the thing is, on the Global Business Report, we've had a representative from the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. We've brought analysts on there on the show as well, other analysts, aviation analysts on the show as well. The NCAA has already put out protocols that they wanted airlines to follow. Extra crew to clean up planes after the passengers disembark, social distancing on flights, cleaning the lavatories, the toilets, and so on. They've put these things in place for weeks now. Consulting firms, there's a consulting firm called Simplify that put out a report stating how changes to the aviation sector will affect profitability going down the line. What is the delay? That is what the people are asking. What more needs to be done in order for the aviation sector to, excuse the pun, to take off so that flights can resume? On this segment, I already talked about how IATA had said that the sector is going to be, has lost in Nigeria about $700 million. Tundu also joined in and said that I think it was to the billions across the world. But in other climes, they're already flying again. So, you know, what other safety protocols need to be looked at? I mean, it's been weeks already, or months rather. They need to quickly move ahead and get this together, because jobs are being lost, people are at home, they need to get back to work, and the aviation sector of Nigeria needs to get back in the skies again. So, you know, it's a wonder as to what is still taking so long. But that's for aviation. To solid minerals now. The Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Mr. Olamilekan Adegbite, says the federal government has identified 7 solid minerals that are supposed to boost the economy. Coal, iron ore, bitumen, barite, gold, limestone. He says that they're going to, you know, they've identified them and they want to facilitate their, you know, production so that they can, you know, add to, you know, foreign exchange and development to the nation. In fact, he identified about 500 or 444 resources across 500 locations across the 36 states. I understand that Nasarawa apparently has deposits of lithium. Lithium is actually a very, very crucial ingredient in developing batteries used for electric cars. So when you think about Tesla and all these other electric car companies, lithium is a key ingredient in the batteries for those cars. I know we've got our electrical issues, but if Nigeria can institute a forward-thinking strategy, we can try to harness those lithium resources and, you know, be ahead of the curve when it comes to, you know, getting to where, you know, electric cars can be in the nation, and it can be an export source for us. But still, if you're picking something out of the ground and you want to export it to develop it, same issues we have in oil and gas, other issues, natural resources, you still need the expertise, you still need the enabling business environments for this to be put together in order for this to happen. So it's a good identification. We hope that they can follow through. Third, from South Africa, Amazon announced that they are hiring 3,000 workers for remote work in South Africa in the areas of customer service, IT, and other services in order to assist people in customers in Europe and North America. This is big. I mean, this is a private company. They already have 4,000 of these folks in South Africa working. This additional 3,000 people now brings a labor force of 7,000. We know South Africa has their issues, but I remember I think the Minister of Labor also was saying that this is very good for the nation because it shows that they're an attractive business environment for companies like Amazon to continue to invest there. And if you think about their infrastructure, if you think about their internet quality, if you think about, you know, cybersecurity, with the fact that, you know, you're looking at payments, e-commerce payments, and the fact that you need to be able to have a secure area for this to happen, it's a big boost for South Africa. And, you know, here in Nigeria, you have to ask what kind of things you need to put together for Amazon to be able to hire those types of remote workers that can be earning money here. And then finally, Gengis Capital, a Kenyan investment bank, made a comparison between WhatsApp payments and M-Pesa. Earlier this week, WhatsApp through Facebook announced that they will be piloting their payment structure through WhatsApp in Brazil. Brazil has about the second largest amount of WhatsApp users in the world, for about 120 million. Second after India, who has about 400 million. So Gengis Capital, which is, again, Kenyan investment bank, was just looking at, you know, the pros and cons of both. What would it be like if they were head-to-head? And the competition that WhatsApp payments would bring to the financial sector of different countries around the world. In India, they've been delayed for about 2 years now because the regulators are a little worried about the disruptive factor of WhatsApp payments. But, you know, you can't stop technology. I mean, this is something that is moving ahead. You think of how ubiquitous WhatsApp is with how everybody who uses it, old and young, and what it would mean to be able to facilitate payments. But then you have to think about the threats to the financial sector. So that's our Africa Business Update.
Thank you, Rotes. I just want to take you back to your report on solid minerals. I mean, we all know that map of Nigeria with each state and the minerals that it has, but it's just so scandally underexploited as a means of revenue. I can recall at least 2 solid minerals roadmaps, and nothing ever gets done.
Exactly.
The Chinese are taking it away freely.
Yes.
Exactly.
Freely.
We've been defrauded.
And they funnel it away freely.
To the tune of billions,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. So it's huge potential that we could be harnessing right now. That
Yes,
we need to
we need it.
You'll recall that since 1999, there's been talk about the mining sector in Nigeria, resulting in the review of the Mining Act.
Right.
And then later the establishment of the Solid Minerals Development Fund.
Correct.
That fund is supposed to help build capacity and provide opportunities. The question I would like to ask is, what you said, the status of that fund, because it will look like that particular fund that was set up has not been able to achieve its objectives. Could it be that it's not being funded by government, or could it be that nobody is paying enough attention?
Well,
so,
yeah, you're correct. You're right. Those are good pointed speculations as to why it's not taking off. Yeah, you're right.
And then as for the agent payment system, I think Nigeria has an agent payment system. We have PAGA, we have interbank transactions, we have e-commerce to some level. But the example of M-Pesa is something perhaps that Nigeria will need to study, so that we restructure our payment system and further deepen financial inclusion. There are lessons. The WhatsApp Pay that you have referred to and the M-Pesa example, M-Pesa is not likely to be threatened by WhatsApp Pay.
No.
How can Nigeria also learn from the success of M-Pesa, for example,
Real
in
quickly,
Kenya?
I think there's a template. The template is plug and play. In China, WeChat Pay is one of the #1 payment systems in China. WeChat is just like WhatsApp.
Right.
And a lot of people use WeChat for payments. People's lives are centered around WeChat.
Yeah.
So let's study the WeChat Pay model in China.
Exactly.
Very effective, that you can practically use to pay for everything, and plug and play, because there's a lot of potential as regards that. And
But
we've
to
not
the
scratched the
extent-
surface on payment yet.
To the extent that it is linked to banking, use of credit cards and all of that, you will need to have more people within the banking system. We have, at the moment, just about 30 million.
WeChat Pay is not linked to banking.
But WhatsApp Pay that has been proposed in Kenya is going to be linked to bank accounts.
That's why I say let's study the WeChat model.
Well, thank you, Reuters.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We're moving on to London now, where Michael Wilson is standing by to give us a global business update. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to come in on the money transmission debate you've just been having. I was cleaning one of our sofas the other day in our sitting room, and I found £10 down the back of it in pound coins. So I took them to a shop, and they said, "That's very good, but these are out of date. So you have to take them to a bank to get them changed." So I'd be glad to see the back of cash. Quite honestly, it's just a pain as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, that's physical money for you. Equity markets in Asia, small gains overnight. Overnight, also, a Chinese official said that the re-spike of COVID-19 in Beijing is actually under control. Look at Australia, the lucky country. Stocks pushing higher there on the back of, get this, a retail sales surge of 16.5% in May. That's Australia for you. Back to China, about a fifth of its projects in their Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI, are under threat because of the pandemic. And a former chief executive of Google overnight, Eric Schmidt, has been saying absolutely no question that Huawei has sent intelligence to the Chinese government, and he's recommending that countries actually try to replace their technology as far as their electronics are concerned, but it would take 2 to 3 decades to actually unpick that sort of work. So that's a warning from an ex-boss at Google. Globally, stocks just drifted, basically. FTSE down 0.5%. Sterling dropped on the back of the Bank of England yesterday, which I'm going to come on to in a second. Wall Street just flitted between losses and gains. Democrats are saying in the United States they've got their own, they've unveiled their own $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill. That was unveiled last night. You remember this comes on the back of President Trump actually talking about his own prognostications. And I would like to recap on the US jobs for you just before we get to the Bank of England. Obviously, the labour market there remains very, very weak indeed. Those jobs were disappointing. The jobless claims fell from 1.56 million to 1.5 million, a tiny little decimal point. Those jobs are going to take a long time, even though there's a certain kind of optimism that this was the 11th month in a row that those figures of jobless claims actually declined. It's clear that any kind of relief in that is gradually tapering off. So it's a very, very small percentage of the labour market getting back to work. OK, let's return to the Bank of England then. This is important. They left interest rates on hold at 0.1%, a historic low. They have increased the quantitative easing programme by £100 billion, but it's at a much slower pace. And there was a feeling roughly of some kind of optimism about the country's economy from that. The Bank of England also said they had discussed a little bit about negative interest rates, but nothing firm has resulted from that. They think that the contraction in the UK economy won't be quite as painful as it has been, but basically we're still a long, long way to go before any kind of recovery. However, UK consumer confidence, and it's something which I know that you measure in Nigeria too, that jumped 6 points. Get this to minus 30 in these days. Minus 30 is felt to be quite good. 50 is the tipping point. That hasn't been reached yet, but a number of British businesses actually feel as though the government has handled the COVID-19 outbreak very, very badly, and a lot of them are seeing a recession that will probably last for about 18 months. The EU, which we did this story yesterday about the United States walking away from discussions about a digital tax, a digital tech tax on the likes of Google and Facebook and Amazon and so on. Brussels is saying this morning they will still continue with that. They don't care that America's walked away. And they said they were centimetres away from an agreement before the US walked away from the negotiating table. So there's more money to be made by lawyers, I would suggest, on that. EU summit today. Traders will be listening for any comment on the European handling of the pandemic. It was proposed, if you remember, again, we covered it on the programme last week, €500 billion to be handed out to try to help the results and the damage done by the pandemic. But countries like Austria and the Netherlands, and the Frugal Four, as they're called, are opposed to actually handing out those large sums in terms of a grant. They'd much prefer it was in loans. A lot of pomp yesterday in London. The French President Macron came and met the Prime Minister, also met the Queen, he met the Prince of Wales, rather, and he also surveyed our beautiful troops in London. It looked all fairly positive and friendly, but who knows where those kind of discussions are going to go. I'm going to skip through commodities finally for you. Oil prices pushing slightly higher overnight. Plans by Iraq and Kazakhstan to disregard the OPEC Plus cuts have been repealed, and OPEC Plus is saying you have a couple of months to put that right. If not, we will remeasure the situation there. My commodity trader friend is saying don't take any notice of what OPEC Plus says. It's all about storage and it's all about capacity. Watch the US stock figures when they come out next week. And I'll just take you briefly through cocoa. How about this? Been fluctuating in a range of $80. It remains above $1,600 level. It's bad to predict. That's not a market you want to be in. Coffee steady. Copper, that reached $5,800 an ounce this week, and gold is trading in a very narrow range. These are fairly tricky waters, as I'm sure you are. And that's my global roundup for you. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, and congratulations on your Lejeune Dîner yesterday. The entire city of London was given. All Londoners now have a Lejeune Dîner. Can I see your red stripe?
Missed the last bit of what you're saying. The sound's a bit, as Rotus was finding, the sound's not very good this morning. Just give me that last bit again, if you would, Doctor.
Okay, I said congratulations on your Lejeune Dîner yesterday. President Macron of France gave a Lejeune Dîner to the entire city of London. So you're a Londoner.
He did. We were very pleased to see him. We're always pleased to see the French over here, and we like going there if only we could.
Soon. Are we done?
Well, Michael Wilson, I don't know whether we still have a little time. I wanted you to talk a little more about the BRI and, the interest of developing countries that seem to have embraced that and have found themselves in a debt trap diplomacy from China.
Unfortunately, we don't have time for that. We'll have to do that maybe Monday. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And now for a COVID-19 update, we go to Aaron Akerejada. Good morning, Aaron.
It's quite soothing to have you introduce me. Good morning, Doctor. And good morning to you, Rufai. And
Aaron the Baron.
Let's get straight into it. Quite a lot to actually run through this morning as we try to do a wrap-up for the week, looking at how things have actually played out. Of course, if you look at it, 77 nations in the world has actually seen a spike in the last 2 weeks in number of COVID-19 cases. Let's actually try to break them down for you in numbers. Of course, when you look at the cases, United States still tops, with Brazil coming in second. We have seen Russia, but India is one place that things are really going out of hand, and we've been watching how things are actually playing out there. We'll talk about India in a moment. But moving on, cases by, when you look at the number of infections, cases per million in certain areas, you can see there, South America is one area that has actually seen a spike. Going back to the previous one, before we move on, going back to the previous one, South Africa has actually seen a major, Latin America has actually seen a major spike, the likes of Chile, Peru, and also Singapore is also having a surge up, and the United States without a doubt, and Luxembourg. Now moving on to the next one, and as it stands right now, looking at the number of deaths that have been recorded in COVID-19, the United States still leading with over 120,000 deaths, with Brazil coming in second, the United Kingdom, Italy, France, Spain, Mexico, and let's also break it down. Moving on to the next one, the deaths per million in inhabitants. Now, Belgium, without a doubt, because of their population, per capita, is certainly leading with 835.5. Then, certainly, we now have to move. I beg your pardon. Okay, case of fatality, since we are there right now, France, Belgium, Italy, and the United Kingdom. All right, for the brevity of time, let's actually move on to India. A lot has been happening in India, and yesterday, India also recorded another surge in the number of cases and deaths in that particular region of Asia. And you look at South Asia has been ridden with COVID-19, the likes of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Some of those places are seeing massive surge in number of infections and also deaths. Although the silver lining to the dark cloud in India is the fact that half of the people who go down with COVID-19 get to recover in India. So that's a good one there. But you can see just this week, between the 15th and the 19th, 11,000, 10,000, 12,000, and 13,000. Moving away from that, looking at Africa, Africa has not been left out of COVID-19. You can actually see the spike. It took Africa quite a number of time. As a matter of fact, it took 100 days for Africa to record the first 100 cases, and it only took Africa 19 days to record the second 100 cases. You can actually see the surge.
100,000 cases.
100,000 cases, I beg your pardon. You can actually see the surge by that. Now, this is the breakdown of how things actually are between Central, Eastern, Northern, Southern, and Western Africa. Without a doubt, Southern Africa is where the spike is, and it's really sad. Lesotho, of course, without a doubt, South Africa and Zimbabwe and all those regions in that southern part has actually seen a major spike, and not leaving out South Africa, chiming into South Africa. What they have been doing in South Africa has been quite impressive, understanding that the number of tests conducted is next to none in Africa. 200,736 are the number of tests carried out in the entirety of Africa, the entirety of South Africa. I don't think anybody has even matched up to half of that particular number at the moment in the entirety of Africa. Positive cases, 80,412, and recoveries, 44,331, deaths, 1,674 in South Africa. At the moment, we've been talking about Western Cape Coast, where there is a massive surge. Just like in India, it's not in the capital as per se, because Chennai, for example, in India, has seen more cases. As a matter of fact, the government has actually brought down a lockdown in that particular place. Now, talking about activity, before we get to this one, please, the previous one explains quite a lot. For those who want to still engage in several activities in this COVID-19 ravaged era, and they've actually rated the level of risk by Yahoo on what you can do and the likeliest thing you will be participating in that will give you COVID. That is likely, you're likely to see COVID-19 actually prevalent, and you might get COVID-19 from somebody else who has it. They said the least is playing tennis, all right, getting a takeout or from restaurants. You are least likely to do that. 1 being the lowest, 9 being the highest. You can see that going for a walk also puts you in a very safe zone as again, and also going for groceries, it starts getting a little bit touchy when it gets to number 4, the likes of visiting a dentist, walking by a busy downtown, going to offices, doctors waiting, being in a doctor's waiting room. In number 5, going to diners. In number 6, like casinos, restaurants, indoor seating, playgrounds. And it only goes further. When you begin to play sports like basketball, you go to public pools, you go to schools, certainly you increase the chances of contacting coronavirus or COVID-19. And of course, when you actually go for buffets, sports stadiums, gymnasiums, amusement park, churches, certainly it's actually there. And one of the worst places to be in this period remains bars and large music concerts. And that is why the Abuja task force were right to go down hard on those people who conducted concerts, with Naira Marley being the star artist there, because certainly that's one of the worst places. And a lot of people are also questioning Donald Trump and what will happen this weekend in Tulsa, Oklahoma with his rally. Certainly is another flashpoint when it comes to COVID-19.
Well, clearly, Aaron, what we've seen is that as many countries continue to ease restrictions, the numbers continue to go up, even here in Nigeria. In Singapore, well, the restrictions have been further relaxed, but people have been advised not to go to restaurants yet. The restaurants remain shut. In South Korea, 26 cases were reported today. 46 cases were reported today, 26 of those from Seoul, the capital alone. So the pattern is the same almost around the world. And if political leaders say, well, systems should reopen, the world must go on, again, we go back to that same point about people just taking responsibility
for themselves,
for their lives, which is the point of that chart from Yahoo that you were referring to. But what do you think of the decision in Nigeria not to reopen the skies by June 21? Because we had on this same program the Director General of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. He said they were ready, and they were already working with the NCAA. But now the NCAA says, no, it's not ready. And airline operators also seem not to be ready yet. What's your view on that?
Of course, without a doubt, where you started off from that particular point, disinfection, how ready are they? Do they have all the necessary equipment, and do they have procedures in place to always disinfect airlines? Like in the UK, for example, when we talk about COVID-19 and the air industry, they are talking about the fact that when people actually come in, there will be a waiting day and period of 14 days. And people like British Airways are already kicking against it, that would destroy the air industry if paraventure is actually open. We've seen, remember that the whole COVID-19 actually went viral around the world because of the air industry. The air industry played a major role in it. So if governments are a little bit reluctant in opening up the airspace, it is understandable, because it is where you can see somebody literally fly from probably China to somewhere, or Belgium to Nigeria, or the UK to Nigeria, and we've seen how cases actually travel faster than any other means of transportation.
Look what happened in New Zealand with the two ladies who came in from the UK.
And right now, New Zealand are beginning to do mass testing, although they are finding little or no cases. But at the moment, New Zealand, they were celebrating COVID-19 free and not. But before I go, just a little teaser. In a bid to actually sensitize people in Morocco, Morocco has taken a different approach. They use trams very popularly in Morocco, and they've decided to wear, if you can have the picture there, they've decided to wear them, they've decided to put a surgical mask on their trams as a means of sensitizing people.
That's exciting.
That's a good one.
All right, quickly, Aaron. Yeah. We had the highest spike in Nigeria, 745 cases. What can you say about it? And secondly, I talked about a little country called Georgia yesterday. What is Georgia doing? They have about 888 cases, 751 recoveries, just 14 deaths. Just quickly, if you can answer that.
All right, Nigeria has seen having a spike, and like I said, what borrowing a leaf from Donald Trump, when there are more testing, just like we see in South Africa, you get to see more cases, and that is what is happening. Testing are being wrapped up in Nigeria, and also the fact that the lockdown has actually been eased.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Aaron. And just as a parting shot, the WHO has withdrawn hydroxychloroquine.
Yes, they have.
And insisting that it is of no benefit. Thank you, Aaron.